The killing of baby girls has long been a shadowy aspect of traditional Indian society, where boys are more highly valued. Modern medicine, especially ultrasounds, have added a new twist to this grim reality. It's now possible to discover the sex of a child in the womb, and that's led to female fetocide at a staggering rate. Campaigners estimate up to 10 million girls have been killed before or at birth in the past 20 years. I'm Fawzia Ibrahim. On this edition of 101 East, we ask why India cannot or will not protect its baby girls. It's been more than a decade since laws were passed banning abortions on the grounds of gender in India. But only a handful of prosecutions and convictions have followed. Observers say the law is proving almost impossible to enforce. The finger of blame points to the country's doctors, alleged to be making millions of dollars a year from illegal abortions. And as David Brown reports, even if they survive, female children in many parts of the country are seen as a burden, not a blessing.
Orissa's classical lotus dance is a celebration of an Indian woman's femininity and beauty. But this country has another cultural tradition, which is dark, secretive and brutal. For more than a century, India's female-to-male sex ratio has been in sharp decline. The government of India's own 2001 census report described it as disturbing reality. Indian human rights activists say the phenomenon of the country's vanishing girl children has now become genocide.
If it's a boy, they say they need the boy to carry on the family lineage, to take care of them when they are elderly, and to safeguard the family, to look after the father and mother when they grow old. Kill it! Kill it!
Campaigners against female infanticide and fetocide claim that in the last 2 decades, 6 to 10 million baby girls have been killed at birth or aborted in India. And they say the death toll is growing because of illegal prenatal ultrasound sex determination.
2001 was bad, but what we have seen afterwards from birth registration data and other small surveys is that sex ratios at birth against girls are declining everywhere in the country. That's 1 million girls being eliminated every year. Even from a context of genocide, there's very little parallel what we are witnessing in Indian society today.
Dr. Sabu George is a 51-year-old academic and researcher born in Kerala, South India. In the last 30 years, he has become India's foremost expert on female infanticide and fetocide, campaigning ceaselessly against what he terms the country's corrupt medical establishment.
The mother's womb has become very, very dangerous for girls in a context where medical criminals are making huge amounts of money.
The grim statistic is supported by leading New Delhi gynecologist Dr. Punet Bedi, the father of 2 daughters. How many girl children do you think have disappeared, have been killed in the last quarter century in India?
At least 6 to 8 million. Actually, the numbers were only a few tens of thousands till ultrasound became a main method of finding out it's a boy or a girl. Ever since, ultrasound has really come as a weapon of mass destruction. And now it's so cheap and easy and it's available on every roadside. Though everybody knows it's illegal, unmedical, unethical, yet the practice is very, very wide. And girls are disappearing by millions now. Now we believe almost 1 million girls are being killed before birth in this country every year.
Abortion in India has been legal since 1971. But in 1994, the government passed the Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Act in a bid to curb sex selection.
It's actually 14 years.
Prenatal diagnostic techniques such as ultrasound and sonograms were not outlawed, as they have a legitimate use in detecting genetic abnormalities.
I mean, everything is formed, but we don't see such details at this stage.
but it became illegal for a person to seek help for sex selection. The crime carries a 3-year prison sentence and a fine of $1,100. Doctors involved in such a case can be suspended and struck off the medical register. But although the law was tightened in 2003, only a handful of cases have resulted in successful prosecutions.
You have a law which you cannot implement. You have doctors, you see. The doctors are the most important partners in crime because they are conducting, despite it being illegal, they're conducting these tests very surreptitiously. They give the sex of the child. There are no papers, you can't pin down anybody.
Alwar district in the state of Rajasthan is thought to have one of the highest rates of female feticide in India. The collector of the district, who is the highest civilian authority, dismisses the suggestion that it's within his power to address the issue.
So could I just ask one question?
Yeah.
This is a meeting about the welfare of children, isn't it, and women, this meeting here?
Yeah.
And you were addressing it. This area is regarded as a hot spot.
Yeah.
For feticide.
Yeah.
And for illegal ultrasounding.
Yeah.
Sexing of children.
Yeah.
And I wondered what your department was doing about this.
मैंने ये डिसीजन किया है.
I have taken the decision that the female feticide has to stop. And to stop, these people have to come forward. Family has to come forward, and the doctors who are doing this will have also to come forward, as this cannot be curbed without a collective effort from everyone.
There are people saying that these illegal doctors doing the ultrasound,
Yeah.
they're criminals and they should be prosecuted.
Yeah.
Have you prosecuted any? Are you investigating any at the moment?
नहीं हमारे यहाँ.
No, so far there have been no such reports here, but I am telling you that we will consider this very strictly and prosecute as required.
Some critics say that killing girl children is a calculated strategy to combat India's spiralling population of 1.2 billion people. India's most recent census, conducted in 2001, shows a significant drop in the number of girls aged 6 years and under. In 1991, there were 945 girls for every 1,000 boys. A decade later, that ratio had fallen to 927 girls per 1,000 boys. Today, in some parts of the country, there are only 800 girls for every 1,000 boys. This is in stark contrast to most countries where girls outnumber boys. And only China has a greater gender imbalance than India.
Ironically, what is happening is, it is happening precisely in those sections who are achieving, have got some degree of prosperity, who are upwardly mobile groups. These are the groups that are now practicing sex selection. The consequences are frightening, and already we can see some indications of it in the state of Haryana or in parts of Punjab. There are no women to get married to. So they go and actually buy brides from other parts of the country. And invariably buying brides means the brides come from poorer parts of the country, from poorer communities. They come here and they are virtually like slaves. And they often service more than one husband.
Reliable sources say that the illegal fetal sex determination and sex-selective abortion industry in India is worth around $250 million a year. Some estimate the figure is currently growing at 20% per annum. It's impossible to quantify the number of ultrasound and sonogram machines in the country, but a cheap Chinese-made ultrasound machine, for example, can be bought for $5,500. Doctors charge around $14 for an ultrasound, and an illegal abortion costs between $30 to $60.
Ironically, the biggest tragedy is that this is now spreading. It's spreading to areas like in the north. There was a tradition of discrimination against the girl child, which wasn't in the northeast of the country and parts of South India. In fact, some of the societies which are highly matriarchal, so much so that it's not only there's no dowry, but there's a bride price paid by these groups. Even in those groups now we see that feticide is increasing. So increasingly it is being offered as a consumer choice.
To track the spread of female feticide, And to investigate an older tradition of female infanticide, we travel to the eastern state of Orissa, to a fishing village called Sandhakuda on the Bay of Bengal. 42-year-old shopkeeper and married mother of two, Archana Samal, broke a code of silence and told us about female infanticide and fetocide in her community.
One night, the mother of a baby was beaten up by her in-laws, and the next morning, the baby was found dead. So we believe that she was strangled by either the father or the mother during the night. The in-laws were blaming and torturing the mother for only delivering girls, and hence it is possible that the mother, out of frustration and desperation, decided to kill the baby and did so. That's what we believe. There was another case in the same village where a couple had 3 girls, and when a 4th girl was born, the father killed the child. What else could he do?
And with the arrival of ultrasound, female fetocide is now occurring. Lakshmi Priya Biswas, a 46-year-old housewife and mother, says the practice is common.
Yes, madam, it happened near my house. There is a person who went for an ultrasound at 4 months, and when she came to know that it was a girl, she aborted. Ultrasounds can be done from government hospitals, and there are private nursing homes which also tell you about the sex of the child. And then they tell you the sex of the child, and if it's a girl, the doctor tells us to pay a certain amount to do the abortion.
How much do they have to pay?
You pay $30 to $60 to get the child aborted. It depends on the length of the pregnancy.
Bringing up a girl is very difficult. In a poor family, ensuring her safety and protection is difficult once she's about 15 to 16 years old. A girl needs more clothes and other things than a boy. We need money for a wedding, the dowry, and all the other expenses. If a girl remains unmarried and walks around like a boy, people gossip about her. It is not customary for a girl to leave home. Ultimately, a daughter is a liability and a curse.
The situation of women is very bad. They are tortured for dowry, especially in the lower castes. It is a curse to be born as a woman, and being poor is also a curse.
Coming up after the break, a shocking revelation in one Indian state that forced the closure of 5 ultrasound clinics. But are the authorities doing enough? Stay tuned to 101 East.